Hello?
Mr. Sullivan, can you hear us? Mr. Sullivan, can you hear us? Yeah, it looks like you can.
You do not. You have to share
Hello?
video.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
I cannot hear you. Hold on here a second. No, there. Let's try that.
We can hear you.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. So video for you is optional if you wish, however you wish, okay?
Okay.
Thank you for joining
I
me.
just want to make sure that I was there. And I'm going to turn off the video and leave the speaker going. We're going to cancel the closed session tonight.
That is correct, yes.
Good, because my wife is in the car as well, so she's going to be hearing everything.
That's okay.
So
We'll be canceling
public
closed
is
session.
fine.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, then with that, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:03. We'll take roll call. Mrs. Romero is absent. I am present. Mr. Sullivan is present via remote. Dr. Camby is present. Ms. Julie Hub is absent. Dr. Ramirez is present. Tammy may be joining us remotely. Okay. And then Brianna Torres is also present. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. And so we're gonna need a motion to adopt as presented or amended.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented or amended.
Very busy.
And I'm recommending that we table, we have no items to discuss for item 4, which is closed session. So we will skip that. Item 6 minutes, we will table until the next regularly scheduled board meeting, as well as item 12A. And we will move the superintendent report, which is item 8, to the end of the agenda. Do I get a motion to approve?
Accept that
I was gonna
motion
say,
as
Steve,
addended.
turn
Yes.
on. Mr. Sullivan, will you second?
I'll second that.
Excellent. Okay. Do we have any, well, I guess we should have asked that first, but any comments for closed session? Excellent. Okay, then we can jump ahead to the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
For which it stands. One nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, you can hear him in the car.
What?
In the car. Okay, so we are gonna then, do we have any comments for the public to address the board? None. We will move on to item 9, which is board members' reports and communication. So has there been any correspondence of note?
No.
And are there any board members' reports or communications?
No, I have a concern.
Okay, then we can move on to concern.
Well, my only concern is since I'm remote again, I've been in meetings all day. My battery charger in this car that I'm driving is not very good, and I may drop during the middle of this meeting, and it's not by intent.
And that is why we are trying to do everything that requires action sooner in this meeting.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Okay, and I have no other interests or concerns. Okay, then we will move on to the consent agenda. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll
Can I get a
second the motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? I think I have all of my questions. Oh, do I? Okay. All those in favor of it? Well, but then we're going to discuss it first.
Was there any discussion? Is there any?
Well, that's what I was looking
Oh,
through my
I'm
notes
sorry, I thought you had.
to see if I had discussion points. Which I do not. All of my questions had been answered. So hearing no other discussions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There would be none opposed because the other two are absent. Okay. So then we can move on to item 11, which is information and discussion and our public hearings. The first is a public hearing for the Mesa School District Local Control and Accountability Plan, which is the LCAP. So can I get a motion? Do I have to do a motion to start a public hearing?
You just open the
So I
public
just
hearing.
need to open the public hearing at 6:08. And for any of those listening, there is a copy of the presentation and the documents on the agenda itself.
Right. That's for people listening. I would like to ask real quickly is if Dr. Ramirez could report how he disseminated this information to the public, just as a matter for the record.
Sure. So the public hearing was posted within the 15 days and or outside of the 15 days. And it was posted throughout campus. It was posted on our district website as usual. And those are the ways in which to make the public accessible to this hearing.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and did we have anybody raise their hand with a comment? Okay, then I will close the hearing at 6:09. And I will open the public hearing for the 2023-24 financial budget, in which we also have a presentation. So it's perfect timing. We'll give you a second, but we'll go ahead and open it up at 6:10.
Not on the screen, is that okay? So, good evening, members of the board. It's my pleasure to present the 23-24 adopted budget. We're here once again, ready to start a new fiscal year, closing out 22-23 and beginning 24. As we look at statutory COLA, this year we had a 13.26% COLA. But as we know, that included a significant amount of augmentation. And then in 23-24, we're projecting an 8.22% COLA. The governor, in his May revise, is proposing to fully fund the COLA at 8.22%. And yesterday, the Assembly and the Senate came to a deal, and they are confirming their belief that we should fully fund the COLA at 8.22%. I believe at second interim, I'd mentioned that there was maybe some potential exposure just because revenues are down, but both the legislature and the governor feel like it's important to fully fund that COLA at 8.22%. And so that's what we've included in our budget. As we look at actual enrollment versus projected enrollment, currently we're projecting, or in 22-23, we actually had 549 students. But you have to recall that that does not include some of those TK students that we accepted early on. This is based on fall census numbers that are LCFF eligible. This year, the date moved from December 2nd, February 2nd. Next year it moves to April 2nd. And currently we're projecting 566 students in 23-24. We actually do have an 8th grade class that's aging out also. It's a smaller class, so that also helps our numbers. P2, we had ABA of 517.01. in the current year, and we're projecting that to increase to 528. The district has made a significant emphasis on attendance in the last few months, and we're really seeing those numbers rebound from what they were at P1. We saw some uptick at P2, and so hopefully that momentum will carry us into the new year. Our actual funded ADA in the current year is 575.35 ADA, and next year we're projecting it to be 550.26. As you may recall, prior to the current year, we were funded at the higher of the current year or the prior year. The legislature and the governor signed in the budget deal using a 3-year rolling average, hoping to give districts a soft landing, which it is helping Mesa as we move forward. Our undistributed pupil percentage, again, that's a 3-year rolling average as well. It's 40.35% in the current year, and it's projected to drop slightly to 38.57, primarily because we're hoping to have an uptick a little bit in our enrollment, and I do keep those numbers static year over year, so there might be some fluctuation in that number once we have actual fall census data. There were no discretionary funds in the current budget or in next year's budget, although we do have some discretionary block grants. There were some questions around those. In May revised, the governor was proposing to sweep at least half of 2 of those discretionary grants. The legislature is pushing back and saying they'd like to see that decrease, but we've not included our discretionary block grant in the current budget or next year's budget, just from a, my conservative nature. And then learning recovery is also a potential. There's some exposure with that grant as well, but the legislature, when they took action yesterday, they're pushing back heavily on the governor's proposals to really slice and dice those. So hopefully we'll have some good news as we move once the budget is actually a signed deal. Our PERS rate is increasing from 25.37% 26.68%. Remember that with our classified staff, we're paying for 35 cents on the dollar for statutory benefits, and for certificated staff at 19.1% COLA or 19.1% STRS rate, we're in about the 23% range as well. So for every dollar we pay for teachers into STRS, Medicare, workers' comp, and state unemployment. For classified, they also pay into Social Security. In our multi-year budget assumptions, again, 13.26% COLA in the current year, 8.22% in 23-24. And then we're seeing those COLA projections drop with the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates. They're hoping to see some cooling on inflation. And so as a result, we're seeing COLA drop because it's really tied to those inflationary numbers. Gap funding, we're currently at 100%, although there is a proposal by Senator Mariucci to increase LCFF funding to help increase wages for classified and certificated staff. That would be implemented over several years, fully funded in 2030. But again, because of the uncertainty around the revenue, it's unlikely that that will be funded. We'll see if it comes back as a permanent budget proposal next year. Gap funding, when LCFF was first implemented, we weren't fully funded. Each year we took a little bite out of it. So we received COLA plus a percentage of gap funding. It was supposed to take at least 7 years to fully fund. I think we fully funded COLA in about 4 or 5. I don't remember exactly. So probably all of the gap funding conversations were prior to your tenure as a board member, which is why you have to necessarily heard that term. But I thought I would bring it back just because there is that possibility of increases into LCFF beyond. When we look at our actual funding rates then per ADA for grades TK through grade 3, we're funded at $10,919 per ADA, grades 4 through 6, $10,069, and in grades 7 through 8, $10,367. We do receive a grade span adjustment for grades TK through grade 3, which is 10.4% of the base, which is another $1,032. It helps fund the lower class size. In our supplemental funding, that's 20% of adjusted base rate, and concentration grant funding is for every student that's over the 55% threshold, receive an additional 65%, but that doesn't apply to Mesa. There are only 2 of the smalls receive concentration grant funding, that would be Somas and Briggs. Estimated LCFF entitlement for ABA is an $11,600 in 2024, and in the current year it's $10,723. So to see what an important component of that supplemental funding is, on the next slide, we're projecting again 38.57% under 23-24. It jumped a little bit in 39 to 39.55 because we had a lower threshold, so those numbers are rolling off, and then the 25-26 is pretty much flattening out. So once we have revised CVED number in October, then we'll be able to update this chart and have a better understanding of what we're looking at in the current year, or in 23-24 as well as in the out years. Our supplemental grant funding is $447,000 in 23-24, and in 24-25, 25-26, it's projected to be $458,000 and $472,000 respectively. So it's a sizable amount, and it's very helpful as we fund specialized programs for under the KP account, which is your free and reduced lunch, your foster youth, and your English language learners. And these funds need to be concentrated and spent on those subjects. So again, in 2024, projecting ABA funding of $11,600. The following year it jumps to $12,085, and then $12,480 the year after. As we look at our estimated actuals versus adopted budget, see that federal revenue is projected to drop by about 14.2%. That's because we're coming to the end of those ESSER dollars. We anticipate to expend all of those in the current year, and so next year's revenue for federal revenue is expected to return to historic levels. And then state revenue is also projected to drop by 63%, but that's because of those 2 grants that are not ongoing in funding. And then local revenue has dropped, is projected to drop as well. They're funded at the SELPA level. And so those monies that come for AB 602, which is special ed, pass through the SELPA and they come to us as local revenue. But because of declining enrollment in the county, for the second highest declining enrollment in the state, we're seeing those revenues drop. And then also from Mesa's highs to where we're currently at, it's a 3-year average as well. So we're seeing a decline. So that's been recognized in 23-24's budget. We've been very conservative as we project revenues. I always lowball revenue and expenditures. I like to not necessarily overestimate, but take into consideration everything might impact the budget. As we look at certificated salaries, they're dropping slightly. We've included set some columns for next year, but then we also had that one position that has been reduced out of the budget. We've also seen some reductions in classified staff. And then one of the things that we need to be mindful of, we've had high numbers of absenteeism in staff as well. And so it's going to not only encourage students to be in their seats, but to encourage employees to be here at work as well, so we don't have high substitute costs. But anytime there's a pregnancy or things like that, that does have significant impact on the budget. When we look to books and supplies, relatively a slight drop, but again, that's because of those one-time ESSER dollars. And then services and other operating expenditures are down slightly as well. And then other outflow, it's somewhat static as well. Those are monies that we transfer to Golden Valley. Again, as I mentioned, the SELPA passes through that money. special education dollars to us. We pass those on to Golden Valley, but we've also seen significant increases in excess costs with our students. So those are included in the budget, and those are anticipated that they're slightly lower. So in the current year, 22-23, we're seeing a slight increase, but that's predominantly because of those categorical dollars, not on the unrestricted side, but on the restricted side. And then we are anticipating some deficit spending because we are spending down some of those block dollars. We're required to spend those by the end of next year. So those assumptions are included in the budget. So we have our reserves projected at 443,000 in 22-23, and that drops to 431,000 because that is based upon 5% of our expenditures. And then those, you can see those restricted dollars as well. We have 1.2 million in the current year, and that is projected to drop to 1.16 in 2024. One of the benefits of having these categorical dollars, however, is it does provide cash. And so historically, one of the remedies that the legislature and governor have used when there's a gap in revenue is rather than impacting schools, they go to deferrals. So we don't receive all our revenue in the current year. It gets bumped out several months. And by having higher cash levels, it doesn't produce operations, because we can't have a fund go negative. So because of the funds that we have in other funds, as well as the funds that we have in the general fund, we're insulated from needing to take out a tax revenue anticipation. No. We're in a large district. You only have 2% reserves. You have large cash outflows, and many times those districts are forced to take out what we call a TRAN, and with the higher interest rates, strictly for a district. As a district, because of our cash reserves, we're protected. We have unassigned reserves of $959,000 in the current year, and it's projected to drop to $779,000 in 2020. So when we look at our multi-year projections in 23-24, we are projecting deficit spending. They've been very, very conservative as we look at enrollment, just because of the uncertainty surrounding TK and K. We see a large number of K students that weren't enrolled in our TK students next year. So it's just going to need a few years to really understand how that TK push is going to impact your budget numbers. So again, it's very good in those projections. We have some deficit spending projected in 23-24 on the restricted side, and then it returns to be somewhat static. But again, remember that we do have those discretionary block grants that can help offset some of that deficit spending as well. So discretionary grants can be used for multiple purposes, and that could actually help offset some of the deficit spending that the district is experiencing. So when we look to 23-24, we're projecting reserves of about 14%, and then over time those will drop to 7.6%. Meet the requirement of having a 4% reserve. A 5% reserve earlier, and that means the board is taking action to have an additional 1% as part of those reserve amounts. So even with that additional amount, we are meeting the reserve requirements. When we look at our other funds, as I mentioned, we're fairly cash rich. When we look at our cafeteria fund, which we cannot borrow from because it's through the nutrition program and it's a federal program, so we can't borrow from that fund. We're projecting having $276,000 at the end of 23-24. We also have some kitchen categorical block grants that the district has been awarded. So I'll be meeting with Dr. Ramirez and coming up with a plan on how best to spend those purchasing equipment, upgrading some of the items in our cafeteria. In our deferred maintenance program, we're projecting to have $617,000 at the end of 23-24. And you can see right now, one of the benefits of having higher interest rates with having large cash reserves, we're benefiting because we're seeing large influxes of interest. So $617,000 at the 23-24, 2014. Fund 15, we have about 56,000 that can help offset any of the costs of the electric bus grant programs. And then we have 2 special reserve funds in Fund 17, we have $66,000. And then our bond building fund, we're projected to have about almost $3.6 million at the end of next year. You'll note that I have not budgeted any expenditures for next year. Just need to see which programs will run the next year. And then as we approach planning purposes, then we'll begin to spend the balance of money. In our developer fee fund, we have about $107,000. And then in Fund 35, it's a facilities hardship grant that we would receive from the state. We just basically kept that in the holding account. If we need it, I can always sweep it into one programming or into our deferred maintenance. And then our bond interest and redemption fund, we can't touch because that's for debt service. So we have we're projecting to have about $5.8 million at the end of 23-24. So as we went into this budget, there's still a lot of uncertainty based upon the governor's proposal and revenues. As you know, the revenue collection date was moved back to October 15th. So we'll wait and see what happens once the budget's adopted. And then we expect that probably in November or sometime in October, November, the legislature may take action to making the adjustments as needed. But fingers crossed, revenues we see an uptick instead of a downturn. We have sufficient funds to fully fund the LCAP as well as our expenditures. And as I mentioned, we have good cash flow so that if there are any deferrals, so all good things for the district. Any questions?
Did you say? I have none. Did you have any?
No comments. I mean, it's good to see. We're doing okay.
We're doing okay, and the next couple of years will reduce our reserves, but we're also still in a really good position with our percentage that's in our reserves, and we're being conservative on our estimates for what we think, enrollment is going to be, for example, which everything else gets driven off of. So
and we have time to make those necessary decisions. One of the advantages to being in the position that we have is that it allows us time to make measured decisions rather than making significant layoffs and then having to bring employees back. That creates a lot of uncertainty and could cause people to leave the district. So with the reserve that we have, we're in a very comfortable position and can make measured decisions as we move forward in the future years, as well as having some of those discretionary block grants not being budgeted. One of the things that the legislature pushed back yesterday is that we don't want to see the tremendous cuts to those programs. So we'll see what happens once they sit down and negotiate with the government.
The other point to keep in mind here is that, as Tammy had mentioned,
Dr. Campbell,
measured approach is what we're employing. And what I mean by that is, as the enrollment starts to shift in any one grade level, we'll be able to make adjustments accordingly over time. That's really important for staff. It's really important just for people's certainty in life to be very thoughtful with those decisions. So we have time, and as she mentioned, she's been very conservative around those funds. So if any portion of it were to come in, this projection starts to look perhaps more positive.
One, it looks like we've done a great job using our categorical funds, so that way it allows us to have more flexibility with other grants and things that we've been getting as well. So I think that's, kudos to Tammy and yourself for that.
And we've really, over the last that helps. Having another school that helps. It's like I didn't mention in my presentation is just many of you are probably grappling with property insurance across the county. seen tremendous increases. So those have been taken into consideration within the budget. I'm comfortable with the numbers that we have budgeted for property and liability. We're still negotiating with underwriters. We normally at this point in time have firm numbers as far as what the property insurance will be. I traveled to London every year with the so we going to negotiate with Lloyd's of London, and some cases that have been in the county. That's some concern among the writers, but not just from what's happening in our county. As you hear of natural disasters, the fires in Canada, the hurricanes, Florida, the tornadoes in the southeast, all of those have really impacted insurance payers, and they're in the place to make money. So those costs are being pushed out to participants. And one of the other things that they're really looking at is the total insured value, because as they've experienced these natural disasters, discovering that the cost per square foot for replacement cost is extremely low. And so they're pushing us to increase those values, and as that value, increasing costs to insure. So I have included those numbers in the budget, and I feel very comfortable based upon what I had to say that we're more than sufficiently insulated our budget that we did use as far as those assumptions.
Then did we have any public comments or hand raised? No? Okay. Then hearing none, we will close the public hearing at 6:34. And then we will open the public hearing for the consideration of the adoption of the Step Up lab aids for the middle school 6th through 8th graders following the NGSS science instructional materials. So we'll open that up at 6:34. And then Dr. Ramirez, did you want to say anything about this while we wait to see if there's any comments? And again, all of the information and links to the different kinds of programs, what's included in the curriculum, the learning aids is all posted with the agenda.
From my perspective, I just wanted to
just use this as an opportunity to reiterate that the report is there on the screen. It has been placed on the agenda. And just to give a quick rundown, we looked at 3 sets of materials. Actually, we looked at many more at the outset of this process. We reached out to the county office, got a rundown based on their information of where districts were across the county. We wanted to start from a place of just narrowing down a list. From there, we looked at, with Mrs. Spillane and Mrs. Roberson, looked at a more consolidated list and landed on 3 materials to pilot. Looked at ways to make sense of those materials using what you see in the report were some rubrics. We wanted to also get student input and through that process. So we went basically by quarter. Quarter 1 was just making sense of things and putting priorities on certain materials, as well as making orders. Oftentimes those materials take a little bit of time to onboard and to arrive. But after that, we went with the 3 listed there: Green Ninja, followed by Step Up, and finally landed on Amplify. So with that said, the recommendation is for Step Up. That is a set of materials that is very much aligned to the NGSS and as importantly, aligned to hands-on learning, which is very, very, very important to our teachers and I think most beneficial to the students. And interestingly enough, the students indicated through their input that that was their preference. So with that said, I just want to close by saying my gratitude to Mrs. Spillane and Mrs. Roberson, because putting not just the report together, that's what came, but really this entire process, being very open to materials, being very
reflective of what they could bring and do for students and for their learning. And I think this is going to take an already stellar program and take it to a very, very important next level. So I'm very excited about it. I'm very grateful to their efforts. And this also lays the foundation for a conversation and a set of actions around elementary, which is a bit of a different conversation, but nevertheless, it sets a firm blueprint for that as well. So we're here to answer any questions. I know Mrs. Spillane is here as well. And if there's any comments or questions, we'll be happy to field them at this point.
I have one, actually a couple of questions. Dr. Ramirez, you just used a couple of acronyms. And for the public record, if you could just explain what SEPA and I think it was NGSS.
Yes, I'll start with next. NGSS is the Next Generation Science Standards. They were adopted some time ago. And SEPA, I don't have that right in front of me, but that is the acronym for the set of materials that we have. It's /LabAIDs, which is a component program. And the program was developed from and by the Lawrence Hall of Science in UC Berkeley.
Thank you.
And one other item to note, that those items have been on display in the district office for the past 2 weeks. It's been so. Thank you there again to our teachers for putting those together and making them available.
And will all this be funded through the general fund?
So right now, that's the preliminary goal. If the funding comes through for the arts, music, and instructional materials block grant, we certainly have prioritized that funding source as the way to fund these materials.
We also have money set aside in the restricted lottery that is specifically set aside for instructional materials, so that would be used for those dollars.
Okay. Any question follow-up? I think this will be exciting for MESA to move forward with all these materials. Just looking myself online through all the consumables, but all of the hands-on learning type of things that we're going to get to do and have all of our students learn for the next years to come is very exciting. So just want to check in to make sure we don't have any other comments inside of public.
It doesn't look like it, but I know that Mrs. Roberson is also online. Just want to acknowledge that she's on with us, and so she's actually, we've granted her panelist access. I don't know that she asked for that, but just another acknowledgement that she played a really important role in getting us to this point. And I don't believe that we have any comments. And we certainly didn't receive any in writing, which is as part of our process.
Excellent. Then I will close the hearing at 6:41. Okay, let me make sure I'm on the right page order. Okay. Then the next thing is just need to make a motion that we're in receipt of the initial proposal of the Mesa Union support team, which is the MUST, to the Mesa Union School District regarding negotiations for the 2023 to 2024 school year.
I so move.
I second. I think we just have to acknowledge it. There's any action on that. Is it just to acknowledge
that
it?
we receipt? Yeah, we're in
received
receipt of the what they're proposing for next year's negotiations. And so then should we still take a vote on it though, right? So we still need to take a vote, right?
No, you just have to
Proceed.
receive it. Yes.
Okay. Then we will move on to action items. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry, you have to vote to receive. Oh, not to approve. Sorry.
See, that's what I meant. Okay, so then all those in favor of receiving these comments?
Aye.
Aye. Is this so I can see that again? Okay, then that is 3. All those opposed, there's none, and then there's 2 absent. All right, now we can move on to section 12, which is action items. The first was tabled for the next meeting, so we'll go to Part B, which is a consideration of approval for the certification of signatures for the period of July 1, 2023 to December 31st, 2023.
I make a motion for the consideration of the approval of the certification of signatures for the period of July 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023.
I'll second the motion with the caveat that we can, to approve those, we're also supposed to sign those tonight, so that we'll be signing those as soon as possible.
Yeah, we'll work with individuals to get that signed, perhaps capitalizing on Thursday as well.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Absent 2. Okay, then moving on, I need to get a motion for the consideration of the adoption of the following end-of-year resolution. The first resolution is 22-2309, which is temporary loans between district funds fiscal year 2023 to 2024. Do we need to do these individually? Or can we do them as a block? And then,
I think we should probably do them individually.
okay, then can I get a motion for the adoption?
I move that
of
we
the-
adopt that first resolution.
I'll second it.
Okay, then I need a motion for the second resolution, which is 22-23-10, which is appropriation of transfer of fiscal year from 2023 to 2024.
Well, we have to vote on the first one.
Sorry. So all those in favor of resolution 22-23-09, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Then I need a motion for 22-23-10.
Make a
I
motion
so
to
move.
approve resolution 22-23-10 appropriation transfer fiscal year 2023 to 2024.
I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Well, quick discussion, just for everybody that's listening or whatever, is that these are routine housekeeping things in order to keep the books in proper order.
That is correct.
Right.
That provides us the authority to make these transfers or request loans and so on from interfund or external.
Like this is an annual thing, so.
That is correct.
Correct. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. And then I'd like a motion for the resolution 22-23-11, which is the authority for Mason Union School District to improve compensation and benefits for certain categories of employees after July 1, 2023.
I make a motion to approve the resolution 22-23-11 for the authority for Mason Union School District to improve compensation and benefits for certain categories of employees after July 1st, 2020.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So next I need a motion for the consideration of adoption of resolution 22-23-12, which is adopting a 457B plan.
Make a motion for the consideration of the adoption of resolution 22-23-12, adoption of a 457B plan.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Only that this provides our staff and personnel another retirement vehicle. It does not bring with it a cost to the district, but rather allows the employee to be able to opt in. And some of this was presented, but one of the differences between this plan and a 403B is that the employee gains access upon separation of employment. So if an employee were to go to another place of work, they would have more flexibility around that fund. Is one example of the difference between the two.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So next I need a motion for the consideration of approval of the notice of completion for the HVAC window replacement and electrical project.
I make a motion for the approval of the notice of completion of the HVAC window replacement and electrical project.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Well, the discussion is that it brings to a close.
It's all closed, and as of March.
An
date in the-
important,
yeah,
an important project.
It's a big
Uh,
milestone.
It's a huge milestone, and I will say, I know we experienced a few bumps and rolls over there in the process, but all in all, a great project done at a cost that was extremely reasonable for the district and allows us flexibility to continue to use funds in other ways. And a big credit for it and gratitude to Tammy Peterson, to BSA, to Orlando Madelon, who was on site more hours than we can count, pushing this project to its completion.
Okay, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Next, we need a motion to consider the approval of the Citizen Oversight Committee member of Robert Bean.
Make a motion for the consideration of the approval of the Citizen Oversight Committee members as listed, Mr. Robert Bean.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and I don't know if you want to discuss, but yeah, we have the Oversight Committee as a list of various members of the community, of both the school and our Mesa district community, and it is almost full. There is just one more vacancy on that, but we're still allowed to meet and review all of the Measure O.
Yes, and that's what we've been looking to finalize. So we have 7 active members or 7 members, it's a 7-member committee. And there's various categories, including a citizens organization, taxpayers organization, several parents enrolled in the district in different volunteer or engagement capacities, including some associated with parent-teacher organization, which is what Mr. Bean, Robert Bean, would be fulfilling, as well as business organization and 2 members of the community at large. So that is what we're looking to complete in order to move forward. We've been proposing some dates that haven't quite worked out, so we're trying to pin down a date here in the coming 2 weeks to be able to move forward and satisfy that obligation. And in fact, sharing some good news, obviously, that we've been able to undertake over the past year.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. And I would need a motion to consider the approval of the proposed revision of the Mesa Union School District Board meeting schedule for 2023.
Make a motion for the consideration for the approval of the proposed revision to the Mesa Union School District Board meeting schedules for 2023.
I'll second the motion.
Excellent. And just in terms of what has changed, we added the July special board meeting. And then 2 of the dates, one in November and one in December, were just moved by a day for schedule conflicts. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Moving on, I need a motion for the consideration of approval of the agreement with Ventura County Office of Education for nursing and psychological services for the 2023 to 2024 school year.
I can make a motion for the consideration of the approval for the agreement with the Ventura County Office of Education for nursing and psychological services for the 2023-2024 school year.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Just that it continues to provide support for our students, and we've been able to maintain that level of psychological services, which have proven to be very beneficial to us this year. And we will have our psychologists back next year, which should only add to our continuity.
Excellent. And the funds are both from special education and from the general fund. Okay, all those in favor?
One more quick
Yeah.
question. The value, the cost of this agreement, is it relatively stable? Has that gone up significantly? Has there been much change with that?
Yeah, I'm afraid to say it has gone up, as salaries and costs have gone up. So this will be a year-to-year proposition in terms of, what level of services we can provide and what level of services we might require, in, years beyond next.
Okay, then all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. So next, we need a motion for the consideration of approval for, I guess, modifications, right, to certification and classified staff for the 2023-2024 school year. Does the other agenda have account numbers and not names? What's the other? Is it list? Oh, it is list names. Okay. I just wasn't sure. Sometimes we do account numbers or staff numbers versus names, so I didn't
Yes,
want to
in this,
read off
in this,
names.
yes, in this one, we are moving forward with disclosing of names. Mhm.
Okay, so then I need a motion. Can I do this all in a group?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Then we'll do it for all of the changes, including Ms. Olivia Ford, reducing 80% to a 0.8 full-time equivalent in third grade. And then we have Ms. Larissa Malone, who will also be a temporary 0.8 full-time employee for the third grade. And then Lana Hayat, full-time, I guess a full-time equivalent as a paraprofessional. And these are all effective, well, 2 are effective for the school year. Paraprofessional is effective July 1, 2023.
I make a motion for the consideration of the approval of the listed employees, Olivia Ford, Larissa Malone, and Lana Hayes.
Can I get a second?
Yes, I second.
Oh, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Next, moving on to the consideration of approval for the resignation of Jennifer Romero, paraprofessional for the special education, effective June 30th, 2023.
Make a motion for the approval of the resignation of Jennifer Romero for professional special education effective June 30, 2023.
I second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And next, we need a motion to consider the approval of hiring the following teachers as and classified employees for summer school. Miss Cynthia Martinez, Rocio Laurel, Jennifer Ortiz, Stephen Hernandez, Trish McKenna, Matt DiMaria, Sarah Hokamp, Veronica De Arcos, Magdalena Figueroa, Jessica Ballesteros, Christina Mendoza, Alejandra Cabrera, Elvitra Castaneda, and Debbie Sussex.
I make a motion for the consideration and approval of the hiring the following teachers listed as and classified employees for the summer school based on student enrollment.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
We'll be starting our summer school program on July 3rd, carrying it out through the 28th, and we're excited to get going.
How many students are enrolled or typically come to summer school?
Typically come somewhere in the between the 70s and 80s. We always try to enroll well over 100. And we're definitely making a big push, but in terms of actual commitment and follow through, unfortunately, that number does dwindle.
Okay, then all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. All right, then we are now ready for the superintendent report.
Okay. Okay, so I know that we're going to get to presentations in just a moment. So with that said, I actually want to move ahead to we were just discussing summer learning, so I'll just make a quick point about that, which is you see it here. You see the breakdown of personnel, grades, dates. Very excited. Been a lot of hard work that has been paid to planning this by Ms. Kuklinski and by Leticia Cousineau, Jolana Ramirez, to be able to just bring all of these staff together and make all the plans and logistics. Additionally, our teachers who have recommended students for this, for some learning. I also, before we started, I wanted to highlight our attendance efforts. You heard Mrs. Peterson allude to this earlier. We have been on a strong push since about January, February to be able to get our numbers just closer where they need to be. And as you can see, over the months of March, April, and May, we have seen the kind of improvement that we would expect to see. And again, we're really expecting that this will be that forward momentum that will launch us into the coming year, where our goal should be at the very least 95%. So again, many thanks to staff and Ms. Kuklinski for really prioritizing this, and of course for our parents to be responsive and supportive. So I think this all bodes extremely well for us. With that said, I'm going to turn it all the way back to the beginning, front end. We have some honorees here that I definitely want to acknowledge, and looking out into the audience. All right, so let's start with our Mesa moments. All right, so we'll start with our Mesa moments, and Mesa moments has been an opportunity for us to recognize members of our community who go above and beyond, and we have many of them. But in this instance, there are two in particular that I want to recognize. We'll start with Greg Dryden. Greg can come up here. I'll say it from here. So, Greg, thank you. Here it is. Thank you for your service and dedication to the Union School District. On behalf of all of us, thank you very much. You want to say, I think everybody's and maybe hold on just a second, but go ahead, Greg. Let me reach back over here. So, in both of these instances, folks that don't necessarily crave the attention, don't need the attention, but nevertheless, here we are recognizing them. In Greg's instance, many contributions, and particularly contributions of late, whether it was to our Full Steam Ahead program, whether it was Carnival, whether it was chaperoning events, being a coach. There was always an opportunity for him to lend his skills, lend his support, lend his time, which has only made our program better and our programs and experiences better for students. So thank you very much, Greg, for your contributions and for your leadership as a parent and volunteer. We do have another parent that I wanted to, and member of our community that I wanted to highlight. And before I bring her up, I just wanted to say a few words about her. Has been a tremendous source of support for us. Has been our PFO treasurer, volunteer throughout, wonderful parent, wonderful family, and has also been, that anchor with our Scholastic Book Fair over the last several years, at least. I know literacy is a huge passion for her, and it shows, but always behind the scenes, always pushing things along, always providing that quiet leadership. And we couldn't be more grateful. I couldn't be more thankful. So I'd like to recognize Jennifer Turner. We also are here to recognize and honor a few of our staff who are celebrating some important milestones in their careers and in their time here at Mesa. So we'll start with some anniversaries. We'll start with our anniversaries, 5 years. Miss Stacy Shin, who has been our speech therapist and has worked with us for 5 years, providing amazing support to our kids and to our families and to our staff. So I really want to congratulate and thank her for being here. I don't see her here, but if we can just give her a big round of applause. Also, a 5-year milestone, Amy Williams, who is one of our second grade teachers, has again provided incredible support in a very pivotal grade, very pivotal age, and has been part of a really solid team for us. And so thankful for her contributions over the last 5 years, and certainly hoping for many more to come. Let's give her a big round of applause as well. And now we're going to move into a next milestone, which is 15 years. And want to before I bring her up, wanted to just say a few things about Mrs. Amabel Puga. Phenomenal contributor here for many years. Has been worn many hats, has worked with families, and has a tremendous care and passion for families, tremendous care and passion for kids. Part of our kindergarten team, and just has been just a valuable contributor and addition to this community now for this entire time, 15 years. I'm just very grateful to have her on staff, and has always been for me a person with whom to bounce ideas, to generate ideas, to see what might work, what might not, and just couldn't be more thankful to her service. So Mrs. Amabel Puga, if you can come up and receive a recognition. And we'll get pictures right there at the end. Okay, promise. Okay, next up, we have two equally important. I mean, we have 3 very important people to highlight here, but we'll start with Miss, and before you come up, Mrs. Giselle Buchanan. Just want to say a few things about her. 20 years, has been a parent in this community, a community member at large, has served in a variety of different capacities, but has been working as a paraprofessional and just generally as a great mentor to these kids, trying to continue to help them reach their potential. Has taught Spanish to many of these kids and helped spur bilingualism and biliteracy, really bringing joy to our campus in a variety of ways, and just generally one of the most committed people to this community that I've come across. Finds joy in everything and always looking at the positive. And of course, phenomenal cook, chef, and I mean, it's anything is possible. And she loves to be able to laugh and just have fun, and just a wonderful human being. So in celebration of 20 years, I'd like to have her come up as well. Okay, next we have who is now serving in the capacity of principal of Mesa Union, Ms. Kuklinski, and I want to say a few words here as well. Ms. Kuklinski has worn many hats here and has spent the better part, if not her entire career here, but her time didn't begin here professionally. began here as a student. And so she's one of those examples of what Mesa is, which is community, bringing her children here, and just being someone who has been very, very committed to this school, to this district, and this community at large. So in the last 3 years, he's been a tremendous support and a partner here for me in getting some very important work done for this community. And we're hoping that that continues for many years to come as well. So in celebration of 20 years, if I could have Ms. Kim Kuklinski come up and receive.
Okay. We're gonna get one up.
Okay, and we have another very important honoree. This one for 25 years of service. And I just want to say this is for Mrs. Annie Morgan. Just a joyful spirit. Someone who just incredibly positive, has been working with our youngest kids now this entire time, has grown up her own children here and as part of this community, and countless others who fondly remember her, who now just continue to come here for support, and has been really an anchor throughout these many years for our kindergarten and transitional kindergarten program. And just a person who just seems to meet every challenge with a smile and with a lot of resolve, though. So in recognition of 25 years of service and dedication to this community, I want to recognize Mrs. Annie Morgan. Maybe we can have everybody, any one of our honorees or recipients can come up. Okay. Draw closer. We hold the close, right? Well, just as we conclude, we come to the close of another school year and the anticipation of a new one. And it's people like the folks that we recognize today that have made Mesa special, that continue to make Mesa a special place. And we're just more than hoping, we're planning to continue to keep everybody close, to keep everybody together, to continue to count on your support and celebrate those accomplishments that you bring to us each and every day, whether it's the bubbles on the playground or the incredible volunteerism that you display on an average day. We want to just be thankful for all that you do. And I know that there are many more out there that have contributed over time and that have an incredible fondness for Mesa, whether their kids or grandkids continue to be here or not. And I think I wanted to end this meeting. It's very fitting that we end this meeting with an opportunity to recognize those that make us who we are. So thank you all for your service, and thank you, friends, family, for coming out and supporting us. I know that you are all always supporting, because working here, I know requires a lot of commitment and time. So thank you as well. So with that said, I will conclude my superintendent's report.
Did you want to do end of year or you don't?
Just if you can highlight the last few events. I'm sorry about that. So the last few events, and this is by no means an exhaustive list, even with the handful of days that we have, but we do have a number of 8th grade events to close out the year. We'll be having our barbecue for 8th graders. Our promotion is going to be happening this Friday at 4 p.m. And I'm certainly, I know several trustees will be in attendance. Very thankful. I want to extend that invitation to all of our guests as well. But very quickly, you know, we're going to transition to continuing to forge ahead, and we're going to, a group of us will be moving to the Avid Summer Institute come Monday. That's going to be a very exciting and promising new venture for us. And summer learning, as is mentioned there. And I didn't note it, but a new school year is upon us. So just a lot of excitement and a lot of energy to close out the year. So thank you.
So the next on the agenda is just items for future consideration, which are the LCAP 2023-2024 budget, the Step Up Lab Aids for middle school, and our future meeting will be this Thursday, special board meeting at 5 p.m. And then the next board meeting, another special board meeting on July 10th. So with that, I adjourn at 7:14.
Thank you.